Hey guys, this is Tom Box. Welcome to MST.TV. I have a very special guest with us here today. Another one of the King of Games. In fact, the most recent King of Games. I will call you the Curse Breaker King of Games. Esala, welcome back to the channel. How are you feeling?
Feeling pretty good, I guess. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on. Of course, over the past weekend, you have now claimed the title of King of Games in the Remoto Invitational, and to me, you broke your curse. We'll talk about your curse in a bit. So you finished all the way to the end with Dragon Links.
Yeah, I played Dragon Link for both the qualifiers and the invitational itself. I think I played Drytron for like the one I got my invite because it was pre-ban list, but yeah.
Okay, no, that seems like a good choice. But like, I kind of want to ask you, what made you choose Dragon Link of all the decks out there?
I'm like fairly confident that it is just the best deck. It has the strongest engine of all the decks that you can play right now. It's really resilient to a lot of hand traps and just disruption, and it's extremely powerful as to what it does. But then its follow-up is really strong now, which is different than what previous versions of Dragon Link, like if you compare to the Link Cross version of the deck, it kind of went through its plays, did its whole thing, and didn't have much of a second turn. Like it had enough of a push with Levineer and like Boral Sword, and that was like enough to kill you most of the time, but this deck does a lot more, has a lot more summons, and it can definitely play a lot longer of a game, and I like that.
The grinding power is very, very apparent. So I kind of want to give you the floor right now. Any shout outs you want to give, to people that helped you get to where you are right now?
Okay, yeah, definitely shout outs to everyone at Duelist Academy, everyone in the Discord, all the coaches, the deck doctors and stuff. A special shout out to Jesse, even if he does give me a lot of shit, but he helps me play this deck a lot. Like when I first started playing this deck, I did not know what I was doing, and he definitely got me to this point where I felt pretty comfortable going through all the combos and like knowing the lines that get the maximum use out of every single card. Other guys, definitely shout out to Milo, who helped me test this deck a lot, and then shout out to Matt, who always believed in me.
Awesome. It's really good to have friends in the community, guys. So I kind of want to ask you about like Dragon Link in general before we get into like the deck list and we break down your round to round. Is that what's so special about Dragon Link? People have this misconception of Dragon Link being a linear deck. Like, what's your reply to that?
I think if they're comparing it to the version of the deck with Link Cross, they would be right. Like the Link Cross version is very, very linear, but this deck is not. This deck has to go through several different routes to get maximum utility out of each of its cards. And you start the turn very differently based on your hand, and which is why, like, if you asked me to give you like a combo tutorial, I wouldn't have like a 2-card combo for you, because like you literally play every 5-card hand differently, because there's better ways to use every single card in your hand. If you have like there are certain 2-card combos that get there, but if you have like a separate 3rd card in your hand, that changes the combo entirely, because you just have a better way to do it that's safer. And then that's what you're kind of doing a lot with this deck, is you're choosing the path that's safer, but that also gets you to your end board that you desire. Okay. So you have to find that middle ground.
I'm going to ask for some tips at the end, but you know what? Let's start off with your round to round. I think there's no surprise. Anyone that's watched the weekend will know round 1 you fought against William Candia, and that was a mirror match, and you took the win there. Anything remarkable about that match that you want to bring to our attention?
Not like particularly. It's kind of how the mirror expects to go. If I get to go first, I get to make my board. He can like pick it apart with whatever hand traps or however it can be. I think multiple times he double hand trapped me, and I ended on like Seal Savage, right? But again, the deck just has so many resources on its follow-up that the mirror cannot handle it, and the mirror has to be able to produce 2 interruptions at minimum through a board to be able to like not die to what they have on their follow-up.
Okay.
And he wasn't really able to do that.
Round 2, you fought against a John Wilkin, which actually ended up, you played him again in the semifinals. In this mirror match, you took your first loss. How did that go?
Yeah. Both games he managed to resolve Phantasme on the appropriate summon, right? Drawing either 4 or 3 cards, and Nibiruing me after that. Because, you kind of expect that, right? Once you've dug for that many cards, you expect to just have like a pretty sculpted hand, and like his hands got very, very sculpted after that point, which is why Phantasme is in my deck as well. It's like very good for those scenarios. And I think I honestly just didn't play as well as I could have. I think I could have made Savage earlier in the combo to protect myself from Nibiru, because he did the right thing against the deck, which is he held his Nibiru in his hand until the very end of my combo, until I was summoning the Savage, and he got a lot of value out of it. I was still able to end on 2 interruptions, but his hand at that point had been so sculpted that it easily blew through it.
Now, then you fought against Ethan, against his Eldritch Zodiac. How did that one go?
I mean, pretty much as expected. I just do not think that deck can beat this deck. Like, that deck, if you count, it's just engines, right? Like, the Zoo part and the Eldritch part are both just not very good versus the Dragon cards. The Zoo card just cannot stick against a bounce, and typically the Dragon deck ends on 2 of them. And in that match, I end up like not even trying to go for full combo because it would like lose to hand traps or interruptions more, and just made sure I had a bounce at all times, and he just could never play through that. Every time he passed turn, I would just bounce his normal summon, and then he'd pass back immediately, and that's all it ever took.
Okay.
I just think the Eldritch cards are too slow, and the Zoo cards they're not well positioned in the matchup. So he has to win strictly off of non-engine cards that are likely not searchable, and that's just not a reliable strategy.
And then round 4, you fought against Seth Code. This was a mirror match. And
No, it's Virtual World.
Virtual World. Oh, Virtual World.
Virtual World. Yeah.
Virtual World. So how did that one go?
It's funny because I played this guy in top 8 of the qualifier. Actually, he was in my our bracket there. So I was like kind of like versus how he played his Virtual World deck before. It just ended up being one of those things where I just got to play. Like, we both just got to play our games, and the Dragon deck being able to play its game is just more powerful than the Virtual playing its game. The one time is game 2, my Lancia ended up being not. I guess it ended his turn, but I feel like he didn't actually have that much going for him anyway.
Okay.
But on my turn, he had Nibiru Ash, which was like, it wouldn't have been as big a deal, but like when they're specifically comboed together, where they Nibiru you on your 5th summon and then they Ash the seal, it's very hard to play through that. And then because I had already used my Lancia, he was able to fight back. But then I just got to go first game 3, so it didn't really matter.
Okay. And that actually put you into the day 2 semifinals. And you got to play against John, a rematch where you did take it from him. And I kind of summarized the game 3. He had no interruption for you to build your board. But
yeah, I mean, after he got the Phantasme Nibiru like sculpt, Phantasme Nibiru Ash, all of like Swiss rounds, I guess I got my revenge in top 4. He couldn't have it every time. Yeah, very lucky on my end.
And then the finals, you fought against Dinosaurs, Justin Jones. Now, that was actually quite exciting until the
yes,
until the 3rd game, where I think there was a moment where you can actually capture it, and it would have been like a meme-worthy face for Justin Jones. You can see how sad he was with his hand at one point.
So we talked about it like after the game. He fully expected me to let him start.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah, so he sided in like summon limits and stuff. And I told him after, this matchup is very good for me. I would never, ever go second.
Yes, you also mentioned that in the post-game interview. Like, yeah, I was like, wasn't this the matchup that's going to be a bit difficult? And you're like, no, in the game 1, as long as I have my disruptions set up for him, he is not going to be able to play.
I think as long as the Dragon deck can play its turn 1, I think it wins a lot of the time, because the bounces are actually quite good. Seal can catch quite a lot of things, but the main thing is the reason why Dino was so good against like previous iterations of Dragon was Mystic Mine. And because tiding exists, you have a searchable out to Mystic Mine every turn. And what you do is you literally, like, as soon as you're forced to use your tiding on your turn, you like the seal should immediately summon another chamber. So you search the other tiding so that you have the tiding if they're able to resolve a mine. So you'll always have a tiding for their mine, and you're able to win off that. And that is why that deck cannot win, because it cannot rely on mine to beat you. And then if they don't have mine, it's just super easy, right? Because you just have the Savage to negate the Misk, and they only have so many summons.
That's true.
They kind of like, they need Pank, and like if they're trying to win with Lost World to make sure you can't use tiding on like a monster or whatever, so they can do like battle phase tricks. You're always usually using Seal to bounce the Lost World, which, I mean, because OV hasn't resolved yet, it can still search Pank and try to resolve Lost World again. But that means they didn't search for a Baby or Mist, which means they had to open both of those as well as Lost World OV, which, again, the deck is not that consistent. So you're asking for a lot from them, and you still have a couple other interruptions available to you. So you're kind of forcing their hand a lot more. You're asking them to have like the perfect hand most of the time. But even then, that's just your base combo. The big thing is post side. When you get to like activate Chaos Ruler and mill Lancia, the game's automatically over. You just search Lancia, and they can never ever break your board.
Makes a lot of sense. Seems like that is the kryptonite of the deck. After that, you took it all the way. Although game 2, there was a little bit of a hiccup in the game 2 with the Ice Dragon's Prison.
I would like to talk about that. So I saw like a lot of stuff on various Facebook groups about that kind of thing. There seems to be some confusion as to what actually happened. I did illegally activate Ice Dragon's Prison because I forgot about LP's restriction on the board. Because in that previous turn, when I was doing everything, I had miszoned because the token had been in the token was in the correct position, right? The middle zone, making it really hard for me to guard dragon combo. I knew I had to fiber it away. Like I had to make fiber using it, right? But that where I summoned my monsters after that point were all completely in the wrong zones. So I ended up having some really weird zone placement, and I couldn't do the guard dragon combo fully. So I just had a guard dragon left on my board, which I'm not used to because it's not normal for it to happen, right? And so like, it just lapsed in my mind that I couldn't activate prison. And when I was notified, I immediately conceded. I did not get a game loss. I conceded.
Yes. Yeah. I think the commentator also noted that you conceded, and we can put that out there. I feel a little bit bad because I was the one that called it out.
Oh no! Like, I mean, it's definitely like I'm fine with it now. Like,
I was in the Twitch chat. I'm like, he can't summon that. And then everyone's like, "Oh yeah, he's right. He can't summon that." And then it just became this giant spam. Like, oh boy.
Everything is fine. Like, it should be done. It's just one of those things when there's so many things happening at once in a game in those kind of situations. It's you forget about those kind of things.
Yes,
it happens.
It does happen. That's the thing. Like, there's a lot of things about lingering game states, or like if you don't work your plays as smoothly as possible, like everything supposedly would be illegal play, but then when certain disruptions happen that leave like perhaps a couple of liabilities on the field, then that's when things just start to trip up, and like, we forget about certain things. And I think it occurs from like every player experiences. So we can bring that to attention though. So that kind of covers your tournament lineup. So I'm guessing we're going to be looking forward to seeing you at the YCS, I guess YCS remote duel.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh. It should be an interesting one. I'm wondering if it will just be the 225th YCS, because that's the one that we're supposed to be having next.
I see. I wonder if they're going to develop new prizes for it too.
Yeah,
that would be so cool. I mean, a new prize card, I would be 100% for it. So now let's go into a couple of quick interview questions before we do like a card rundown. I have 5 questions for you. My first question is going to be I guess there's a lot of Dragon Lane players that believe, opening Hieratic Seal is the correct play, or rather the only play that you should always aim towards. But in a couple of your stream games, you open with Romulus rather. What's the judgment call on that?
So it basically comes down to, do you have Tracer yet? Because if you don't have Tracer, that means LP has to summon Tracer, which means LP's not summoning Safer or Tidying, Chamber Dragon Maid.
Yeah.
And it's very high priority for you to get to Tidying more than anything else. Like, you're not, like, if you don't have Chamber yet, you're gonna get Chamber off of LP. Like, you don't get Safer at first, you do not get Brotar for Levy, you get Chamber because you want to diversify your interactions. You don't want to have all your negates be monster effects so the Dark Ruler no more completely turns off your turn. You want to make sure you have Tidying so you have like multiple things to interact with them and they can't deal with it all at once. So it's really important that you are able to get to that via like LP. And that doesn't really work if you don't have access to Tracer, because then you can never do full combo. And the way around that is you get to Tracer via Abserator and Ravine. So that's when you typically have to go for Romulus first. And the thing is, it is safer to go for a Sphere first. And every time it's reasonable for you to combo as much as you can while doing that, you should. But are they going to Nibiru you when you have Romulus and a dragon on the field? Because if they do, I'm fine with that. All you have to do is just then activate the Ravine still, get to your Tracer, and then you can still special summon the Tracer, and then the token and the Tracer just become fiber, and then you can just keep going because you get an extra dragon that way. Maybe you won't end on the seal, but you can still end on quite a lot. And then again, if you just have extenders in your hand regardless, you just still get to go pretty far. And them Nibiruing earlier is actually a detriment to them more so than you, because I said earlier, you are supposed to Nibiru really late against this deck. And it's one of those things where you can just force it out. Like you just look at your hand and you ask yourself, if you get Nibiru here, what do you do? And that's how you decide how you should move that play forward. If you can easily play through it, then you're fine just going Romulus first, because it's way more important to make sure you have access to that Tracer, because it makes the rest of the combo a lot easier. And it's the difference between ending on Seal Tidying Savage and Seal Tidying Savage Abyss. You know, like there's a pretty big difference between Gates and 4.
Okay, then number 2. How does it feel to have your curse broken? Or I guess to the viewer out there, what is your curse?
So after, I guess, like 19 previous tops, I had 2 second places, 4 top 4s, 0 wins. So
very decorated player still, but 0 win.
0 wins. So I guess this is, like, I don't personally consider this breaking the curse. It's not a YCS yet, you know, but like, it's cool. I definitely appreciate the King of Games title. I think, like, actually, knowing that every time they have to talk about me, they're gonna have to say King of Games now. That's cool. I like that.
I like it too.
But I'm still going after that YCS win regardless. So.
Okay, so just another step on the way to truly breaking the curse. I guess you kind of already mentioned this already, so I was gonna ask you about the zone management. I guess how much of an impact is the token being in the middle? When, say, a dinosaur player gives you a token in the middle while trying to do your combo for your dragon links, how big of an impact is that?
Oh, it's severe. Like, I think if you're gonna ever give a token to the dragon deck, you summon it in the middle for sure, because they can't do standard guard dragon plays. The guard dragon plays require 3 zones in a row. So the middle one makes it impossible to do that. They have to do some interesting things with like Quad Boral and like Pisty, and even then it's really hard to manipulate the summons to get to that zone. You have to play pretty perfectly to be able to do that. And yes, there are like ways to get out of the token. Obviously, you can tracer pop the token, you can link into fiber, you can get away with it, but like you can't just play the game the way that you normally would, and that gives people opportunity to mess up, like I did. Like anyone can mess up, and putting them in a position to mess up is really important. So, because it's really hard to play a deck like this perfectly.
It's very true. I think this deck has an extremely high skill ceiling right now, especially this variant where it's just not as linear anymore. Question number 4: how did you practice for this event? Like, how did you get to this god tier level?
I definitely think I played not my best. I think I played better at the qualifier than I did at the invitational, to be honest. I just didn't play as much Yu-Gi-Oh! In the week coming into this, but honestly, it was once I realized that I wasn't where I wanted to be with this deck, I probably drew hands for like 20 hours in a row.
Wow.
And well, not like in a row. Sorry, not in a row, but like in a row is excessive. But like, we made a video on our Patreon about this as well, about like how we actually tested just combo decks in general, but speaking on how we practiced this deck to get better at it. And it is a lot of practice, and it's also like practice with purpose. Know what you're trying to end on, look back at each hand, try to reach this like achieve goal, see how far you can go, look at where your mistakes are, like practice with purpose kind of deal.
All right. And okay, number 5. This is an opinion-based question. Do you think Dragon Link is going to get the OCG treatment, getting axed? Maybe are they trying to push towards a Dragoonity Link?
That's an interesting one, because it's like I was always wondering what they were going to do about LP, because this is a discussion that like we have all the time, even on our streams. Is OCG is printing dragon cards with LP currently banned for them. So like they are printing without LP in mind, but when we get it, we still have LP.
Yes.
So, but at this point, if Konami TCG hasn't banned LP yet, I think that's on purpose. Like, it's not that they're just forgetting about it; it's that they want LP to be there. And at this point, I think Seal is more of a problem than LP is. Every time they like negate my LP, I'm just like, sure, I end on one less negate maybe. But Seal is actually so good at what it does.
Yes. And
it is an LP in all like aspects, because the game goes longer than one turn. Seal just does what LP does anyway. And it just gives you some. It's in theory easier to resolve than LP, because it's just any 2 monsters. You can always end on a Seal. It's very easy to get to that point. For them to end Dragon Link and start Dragoonity Link, I don't know how many cards they'd have to hit.
It's gonna be pretty hard.
Because what even defines this deck? It's just good dragon cards in a pile together.
It's true. It's kind of like dinosaurs. You know how dinosaurs also did not get the OCG treatment. They didn't get their OV Raptors limited. They didn't lose their fossil bigs. I feel like it's kind of in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
And they also have a remote duel championship title too, and that did nothing to it as well.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I just don't know how many cards they'd have to remove, because they're all just generic dragon support. Like, none of these dragon cards are like theme specific. Like, even the rocket cards, they're just dragon support. Like, they don't even limit you in any, like, Recharger doesn't even limit to dragons, it's just to darks.
Yeah.
Like, there is no restriction on any of these dragon cards that like bring them into one specific part of dragons. All dragon cards are dragon support. Even the Dragoonity cards are just purely dragon support. So I don't know what they would have to do to like remove this deck, you know?
Well, it's going to be up to the R&D team to kind of figure that out. Please don't kill this deck just yet. Thank you for the rundown. You gave us a lot of insight. I'm just going to quickly run over your deck just now. We have triple Seifert. We have, of course, black and white. And we have triple Chamber Dragon Maid, one of the best cards of the deck, searching and very recursive with the Dragon Maid tidying. You went for the build of triple Noctovision. Want to elaborate on that particular part?
So we are kind of like, in our whole Academy group, we are really big on if they're not searchable for their purpose, then you should either play one or so basically it's 3 of if it's not searchable, if it's 1 if it's searchable, because it comes down to this question: do you want to see it or not? And Noctovision, I've told myself I want to see it in my hand. I also just think like the dragon deck is always stronger through cards like Droll and Lancia when it's able to play with just a normal summon. And like that's the big thing about like the main starters, right? Like if you look at Seaford, Chaos Space, any like let's say Black Metal Dragon, all those kind of cards, they run into Droll and Lancia really hard.
Yeah,
it's really hard to play through. The cards that actually let you do that are extenders like Royal Legacy Guard Dragon and Noctovision, which can just play off just a normal summon, right? And that's why I'm really big fans of them at 3, and why you want them to like just be in your hand, right? I think your win rate is super high when you draw those cards. Yeah. And technically Noctovision contributes to bricks when you draw it without a normal summon. But again, if you look at this list, we maxed out, right? We play 3 of all the ones that you want to normal summon. And it's very unlikely to both draw Noctovision and then not have a normal summon with it. Okay. So like it's like something like 1%. Okay. And it's just, it's not worth it. Also, Noctovision has this cool third effect, which is actually its first effect. And we've spoken on this before, like when the qualifiers happened, but like it caught people off guard even in this tournament, is that if they target your tidying or just any set card you control, you can banish Noctovision to negate that effect. And also that card cannot be targeted for the rest of the turn.
That's actually really cool. I completely forgot about that effect. If someone were to like target my back row, it would just be like, okay, I guess you got it. No, that's super relevant, because considering the Dragon Maid tidying is one of your best interactions.
And that's like usually the one that gets targeted down, because that's like the problem with back row, right? Once like especially when they're known back row, they get targeted down super easily, whether it be like cards like Phoenix. So the big one is Pankratops. I did Noctovision negate a Pankratops yesterday. Okay. That was just it feels good. So
yeah, you're definitely utilizing Noctovision to the max right there. Then continue on with your list. We have one Absoluter. This is to fetch your rockets if you have to throw it with Dragon's Ravine. We have Brotar being able to search basically mainly Dark Dragons, but it can also search other things as long if you have the correct target. One Rocket Recharger, double Rocket Synchron, triple Tracer. That's the current standard package of the current version of the Dragon Links of 2021. One Red Ice Darkness Metal, but there are no Black Metal Dragons in this variant. In fact, looking at this, we also have one Chaos Dragon Levineer, and I guess the only hand trap you have is Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. Right. I guess my question would be, why the low hand trap count?
I think like our group in general, if you look at all of our lists, like just historically in any format, we don't like hand traps. The hand traps are very inconsistent as to what they actually do. Especially in this format, you need different ones per matchup, and one hand trap is typically not enough versus like this deck, right? If this is the deck you're trying to build to beat, one hand trap isn't going to really get you there. And for you to like consistently see 2 hand traps, you have to play so many. And I also just think the format's like open enough where you don't need to be building for the mirror that much. But Phantasme is generic enough where you can find value of just being able to summon it in a lot of matchups. But if not, it's also just a Dark Dragon. You can pitch it with Chaos Space. You can pitch it like you can search it with Brotar if you need to. Like it just functions. You can safer it away for Noctivision, which is also pretty cool.
Oh, okay.
It just functions in the deck, and it's the best hand trap versus the mirror because it just draws you 4 cards, which is very likely to see Dark Rule No More. And then when you have Dark Rule No More plus a playable hand, then you're just in it. Like you were able to, again, you want to make at least 2 interruptions in the mirror.
Yeah.
But if you get to make more than that, you're pretty good to be able to win through the board, by the way. Like this is like if you're able to crack the board and then you make that many interruptions, then you should be good.
All right.
So that's kind of like how this build was designed to function.
Makes a lot of sense. Then we have 1 Dragon Ravine to search with Romulus. We have 1 Boot Sector Launch for the search of Striker Dragon. And we have triple Chaos Space, triple Quick Launch, triple World Legacy Guard Dragon. Probably one of the most versatile Monster Reborns for dragons. We have, it's not even just a Monster Reborn. It's also like, it fetches cards back from the grave if you can't special summon. We have triple Dark Ruler No More and double Tidying. In terms of the extra deck, we have 1 Savage, 1 Chaos Ruler, 1 Hot Red, and here's one that I did not expect to see in the main deck, but Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend. What's up with that one?
Okay, so there are 14 cards in this extra deck that have to be there.
Yeah.
And then 1 extra deck slot that you could do whatever with. We didn't need anything. We said, okay, if it comes up, we'll play the Scarlet. It came up once, but I just, instead of going for play in my main phase Scarlet, I just summoned Levianeer and attacked anyway. So I never summoned this card.
Okay.
But it could be anything.
Yeah.
The deck only needs 14 slots.
Okay.
Currently. If you want to play the Dragoonity stuff, obviously that's going to change, and that extra deck slot becomes more important. But this is a slot I did not summon. Okay. So
that makes sense. I mean, I think looking at John Wilkins' build, he played an Appaloosa for that particular slot. And I can see why some people do choose to play that because they feel like it is safer. I guess the mid combo, if you do it and people are expecting something else, it sometimes is a bit of a surprise. I've also seen Access Code be put into this slot as well. But yeah, okay, that's really cool. And then we have the other necessities: Borosword Dragon, Christian Hulky Fibrax, Romulus, LP, Pisty, double Heroic Seals of Heavenly Spheres. You have to play 2. There's Quad Boral, and there's also triple Striker Dragon. Oh, and some people opt to play Delindrous because they wanted the extra body when they do drop their Quad Boral pop, but that's just up to them. And in terms of your side deck here, we have triple Alpha, and I guess Pankratops kind of fit into the similar category here. Why the Alpha for the format?
So basically because it trades really well into a Dragon board, and if you just look at how the deck is designed, every card that we play that we would have in a deck at the same time as Phantasme is a card you could draw into with Phantasme. So again, like this is why we didn't want to play like other hand traps like Ash, Nibiru, and what. Like Nibiru would have been fine, but I just think Nibiru by itself is not consistently great versus the mirror. They can usually do a good amount through it, and again, you have to kind of sculpt your hand. But Alpha consistently deals with 2 of their interruptions, right? And it gets stronger and stronger the later in the game you go, because Alpha, like mid to late game, is just a constant threat, because it's different than Pank, where Pank always removes itself. Alpha just keeps summoning itself back. And when you get to those really simplified game states, this card is just a monster and probably can carry the game all by itself. Okay.
Awesome. Then there's Pank, Triple Lancia, probably one of the highest impact hand trap of the format. Double Cosmic Cyclone, Triple Twin Twister. I guess for back row removal, I guess I'll have to throw this question out there. No Feather Duster and no Red Reboot, which would considered as standard for back row control. Why are those not being played?
So there is a big reason why we avoided cards like Duster, Lightning Storms, and whatnot. Is if you look at the back row actually care about removing, it's almost always Schism and Pandemonium, which are cards you want to deal with before the main phase. So, which is why you need kind of the quick play spells. And even if reboot is like good versus schism, it's actually not, because if they have meltdown, you can't well, you can legally activate it. It just won't do anything.
Yeah. That's I see. Good cut though.
And
That's actually something that's going to come up in a lot of ruling based, I guess, procedural errors. I think a lot of people tend to forget that meltdown being on board stuns basically just lets the schism play right through.
So yeah, like reboot's not as good for that. And like I was afraid of Prank Kids going into this tournament because I felt like almost everyone in the Invitational was going to play the deck that they qualified with. But if anything was going to change, it was going to be a rise in Prank Kids. And that's where Twin ended up being better than Cosmic, because typically they always set their Pandemonium, but they play enough back row where it can be like there can be only one Prisons or whatever. They usually set 2. And that's where Twin is super high impact. And Twin's like obviously just still fine versus the Schism deck, because like it's usually like Schism Punishment, and like hitting both of those is also fantastic. And like it's still functional enough versus like the Eldritch decks and whatever. It hits all the floodgates still. And as floodgates are getting more popular, Twin's like a really good one to have. Because you just need any kind of back row removal against them, right? It doesn't really matter what it is.
Okay.
But even then, like against Eldritch, I don't even think I want back row removal. Like I drew Twin against the Eldritch guy, and it didn't really matter. I didn't need it. Like I ended up using it to kill him that last game because I didn't feel like making the extra steps to summon the other bodies I needed to. I just like attacked.
Okay.
But back removal is just not really necessary in that matchup because your monsters deal with back row so well. But these are the ones that target down the back row that actually matter against this deck the most, which are Pandemonium and Schism.
Yeah, I see. So the reason why is you opted for the better timing so that they actually cannot use their cards at the appropriate timing, and definitely capitalizing on the timing lock of your opponent's cards. And then you played Triple Ice Dragon's Prison. This was a really interesting choice here.
It's basically like my go-to side in going first. Like if I want to side out Dark Rulers, like basically if like Dark Rulers and Phantasmic need to be sided out going first, right? Because you want just better cards. They often go in for like Prisons and Lancias, or Prisons and like some form of back row removal, like some combination, right? But Prison is one of those cards where if Prison is playable against the matchup, it's probably really, really good against the matchup.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those things as well where like if you're running into the Mirror or Virtual World or like any of those other combo decks, like they can hand trap you to whatever reason, or like you can just be Dark Ruler or whatever. They will never beat you through Prison because you've already set up a little bit, and then you will definitely have another turn, and they just cannot play through Prison.
All right. Thanks for the very thorough rundown of your deck. Now I'm going to grab a couple of quick tips from you on Dragon Link combos. All right, so we're going to get pro tips from Duelist Academy coach here, Esala. So here's a bunch of like some of the best cards, opening cards for Dragon Link. We have Chamber Dragon Maid, Safer, we have our Chaos Space, Quick Launch. Like, what are the significance of these cards?
So, I mean, these are your typical like good cards in the deck, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, you are going to run into situations where you have hands like this, and not just necessarily these 4 together, but like if you look at them each individually at 2 cards each, right? Like Chaos Space, Quick Launch, and Safer Chamber. I see people do this still a lot, is when they have Safer, they'll just summon it and send itself. If you have anything else to send, please don't do that. Send the Chamber in your hand.
Okay.
And it might not seem like it makes that big of a difference, but you're going to summon that Chamber off of Pisty anyway, so you get access to both of your normal summons, so it doesn't actually conflict that you drew 2 normal summons together. But the difference is you have an extra dragon now. You just have an extra body that you didn't have because you didn't have to send your own Safer away. So that Safer becomes a Striker Dragon, and you end on like at this point you can already see that you have Seal plus an additional body. So you only need 1 more dragon to do like your LP Striker Dragon stuff, right? So it requires you to need a lot less cards to do the full combo, and it's way more efficient, and you get value out of both the normal summons in your hand instead of one just being stuck in your hand. Because you're definitely going to be pisting back this Chamber, which means you can LP for something else.
Okay. That makes sense.
And the Chaos Space Quick Launch one is something that we found in testing, that we just kind of started doing very consistently. And assuming you have something to discard off Chaos Space, right? Like just it's activatable, right? you're gonna search whichever one, white or black, and then when you make your striker dragon, like let's try to resolve it at this point, right? You make white, you make striker dragon, you search black and boot sector.
So we summoned it out. We go over striker. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, and then you want to summon the black.
I'll fetch the black one at the same time. Same
Right. And then you will banish summon the black, and then you will immediately draw, because it's actually kind of important on whether or not you draw Tracer. Because again, I think we talked about this earlier, the importance of Romulus is when you don't have Tracer yet. And this is one of those times when you actually just have enough bodies where you don't need, like, you can afford to just Romulus first and then just immediately summon one more monster and make your seal. But no. See, that's the mistake. Don't do that. You activate Quick Launch.
You activate Quick Launch.
You summon Tracer. Because remember, you haven't normal summoned yet.
Okay. Oh.
So what you want to do now is, now the Tracer and the level 4 dragon on the field, right now you make Chaos Ruler. And this will be your 5th summon.
Oh.
But if they Nibiru you here, cool. You have not boot sectored, you have not normal summoned, and you're getting a free card of this Chaos Ruler regardless. You can probably even summon it from the grave. But what this does is it gives you a really high chance of seeing a good normal summon. So we drew the chamber already, which is fine. Like, we have a solid normal summon in that already. But let's say we draw Seyfert still, or like we reveal a Seyfert off of this this Chaos Rule, right? We would add Seyfert. And then don't forget that you're also searching White Dragon off that black because you put it back on the bottom of your deck.
It's true. Oh my god, there's actually so much going on.
It's, I think, still banished.
No, I shuffled it back in.
Crazy. Okay, then there it is. Yeah. So now, let's say in this instance, you can just add whichever one of those, right? You can add Knock Division. You could add like Recharger, probably Recharger, because it's just an extra level 4 off boot sector. But if you add Seyfert here, what you would do is you'd normal summon the Seyfert and send either like another normal summon in your hand or that White Dragon, which is always going to be there, and that's how you get to your Tracer in hand to be able to summon off boot. And maybe you don't even need to summon it. But like, given you don't do this yet, you make the seal before you normal summon, and you have a lot more resources to work with. And if you get Nibiru'd at any point, you have way more cards available to you to extend further.
I think
and that's
insane. Like, I don't utilize Seyfert like that at all. I don't see it as a generic search, but the way that you play this one out, that's insane. Because now, I guess one of the biggest problems is, if you don't get access to your Tracer, then you don't have any form of end board combo. But now Seyfert can also fulfill that role, which is, aside from like the 3 copies of Tracer, 3 of the quick launches, ultimately you almost have like 9 copies to get access to it.
Right, and because it's not only searching Tracer, it's like that's why the card's so good, right? We think Seyfert's insane in this deck, and it's almost why we also just never side out Seyfert, because it's how you kind of just have a long game too, adding back your Legendary and potentially even your Savages each time. Like, I think just Seyfert is one of the best cards in the deck. But that's, again, a reason why this deck is so good, is every card in this deck is one of the best cards in this deck. They just all do so much, and they're all so generic, and their synergy is all there. Like, if your hand had like a World Legacy Guard Dragon in it, and you just had extenders for days, you would even normal summon the Seyfert here maybe, and send that Chaos Roller to search Levineer.
That is extremely flexible. That's crazy flexible. Holy crap! Now it basically facilitated a Brotar. Like, now that you kind of use it like that, and look at the deck, and I'm like, Seyfert is almost like, it almost behaves like a Brotar or a Pisty or basically any of your search cards.
Right. All these cards kind of do the same thing. They reach the same goal very efficiently.
I like this. Well, I'm not gonna finish off the combo here, but that's some insight that I've never really thought about it. Now that when I look at like deck lists that only run 2 of the Seyfert, I feel like they're really missing out.
Yeah, I definitely am a big fan of the normal summons in this deck, and maybe it is because of how we play it, but the normal summons are all very strong, and they extend past cards like Droll and Lancia very well when you play them like that. When you don't commit to doing it the same way every time, and you try to get the maximum value of all your resources. And again, it's a reason why you can play so many normal summons, right? Is because if you draw Seyfert and Chamber at the same time, that's just a better hand.
That's very true. Oh my god. I actually learned quite a bit from this experience that we just have right here. Guys, this is the knowledge that you guys should go to like Duelist Academy for. Guys, check out Duelist Academy's Patreon. You guys can get so much knowledge, much like our little mini lesson right here. Yeah, is that what Duelist Academy is like?
Yeah, basically, we'll walk you, like, we'll hold your hand through it.
Because, man, I am feeling like my mind is actually a little bit blown about how you guys are using Safer. Man, to me, I'm like, oh, open Safer? Okay, this guy's Retrieve Levy. This guy is turned into, like, a white or a black dragon. I never really thought about it fetching, like, Tracer. I never really kind of thought about it sending away, like, a Chaos Ruler or anything like that. Which, to me, this is, like, extremely flexible. Like, really opening my eyes on this, for sure. Oh, my God. Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you for the knowledge that you shared with us. And, congratulations once again for your new title of King of Games. And definitely looking forward to seeing you at YCS Remote Duel, or I like to call it right now YCS Living Room. But any last remarks you want to give before we close this one out?
Nah. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the deck. It's probably like, maybe you guys are really bored of the Dragon Link deck because it's been around for a while, but I think it's actually really fun to play, especially when you know like all the varying combo lines and how like you can actually mess around with each hand and play every hand differently because of how many options the deck has. So even if it is been around for 2 years, it's still a very fun deck.
Like, I feel like if you can like push your skill ceiling higher, you'll find the deck even more enjoyable. It's not the same deck every time. It feels very different. I just learned something very different in terms of like the combo line. Thank you, Esala, for showing me that. I'm sure, like, guys, this is, if you guys want to win, you guys want to play a skill and a very rewarding deck, Dragon Link is still the way to go. All right, guys, and that's all I got for this video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, smash that thumbs up button. The knowledge on this video is totally next level. Thank you, Esala. And if you guys want to see more stuff from MST.TV, hit that subscribe button, ding the notification bell. My 6969 subscription box value is now at $400. And the next prize is going to be even more insane that I'm going to put into that box. You guys will see very soon. And until next time, don't forget to hold on to MST.TV. And I'll see you guys in the next one.